Kai wiped the sweat from his brow and gave a lopsided grin that probably looked better in his head than on his face. "All right, Celia," he said, voice dripping with mock confidence. "Show me what you got." Celia's long ears twitched once, then twice. The rest of the room might have gasped, but Kai wasn't in the mood for the usual galactic theatrics. He had volunteered for this training session because, frankly, he wanted a story worth telling on some backwater colony someday. Something that would make him sound less like a confused tourist and more like a legend. The training dome hummed quietly around them, its walls lined with sensors and monitors blinking in steady rhythm. The zero-gravity simulators floated silently in their chambers nearby, but today it was about raw, old-school combat. Flesh, bone, and willpower. Celia cracked her knuckles, the subtle glow of her armored gloves casting eerie reflections. Her black hair fell in thick waves, framing a face almost human, but for those unmistakable long ears, sharply pointed and constantly flicking like antennae searching for weakness. Kai flexed his fingers and said, "You know, for a queen, you don't seem to have a throne. Just this, room." She lifted an eyebrow, the faintest smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "Thrones are overrated. Everyone wants one until they realize you're just sitting there, waiting for someone to topple you." Kai's grin widened. "Sounds like the perfect job for me, toppling queens." He cracked his neck with a theatrical pop, careful not to actually injure himself before the fight even began. Celia stepped forward, the hum of her armor syncing with her heartbeat, or at least it felt that way to Kai. "You're going to regret those words." "Regret is just the prelude to a great story," Kai shot back. "Besides, if I'm going down, I want it to be memorable, maybe with some witty one-liners." A flicker of amusement flashed in Celia's eyes, and then the training bell rang, sharp and sudden. They lunged simultaneously, Celia moving with the lethal grace of a panther, Kai with the reckless enthusiasm of a man who'd watched one too many old Earth action hollows. His fist connected with a soft thud against her forearm, more to test than to hurt. Celia barely reacted, already spinning him around with a motion that was all power and no mercy. Kai's feet left the ground, air rushing past his face as he flew toward the steel bulkhead. "Wow, that's gotta leave a mark," he joked, voice echoing strangely in the moment before impact. The wall absorbed most of the blow, but Kai still crumpled like a discarded datapad. The room held its breath. Someone muttered, "That's it. Over in 60 seconds." Kai blinked, slowly. Then he rolled over, pushed himself up on one elbow, and flashed a grin that was pure idiot charm. "Is that all you've got?" Celia stopped, frozen in place. The hum of the dome seemed to quiet. The monitors dimmed, and the assembled spectators, mostly military brass and a handful of curious diplomats, exchanged stunned looks. "You're insufferable," she said, voice low but tinged with something unfamiliar. "Hey, you asked for a memorable story. I deliver," Kai said, standing up and dusting himself off. "Besides, if I'm going to die, I want it to be with style, or at least a good punchline." Celia's lips twitched, almost smiling. She stepped forward again, this time slower, more deliberate. "You're lucky your species invented stubbornness." Kai winked. That, and a penchant for bad jokes. Their next clash was different. No longer just a fight, it was a dance. Awkward at times, fluid at others. Celia threw blows that would have pulverized any other opponent, but Kai ducked, dodged, and parried with a surprising mix of luck and instinct. And through it all, the banter never stopped. "Ever consider taking up knitting?" Kai asked as he sidestepped a lightning-fast jab. "For someone who might get thrown across the room again, you're remarkably talkative," she replied, eyes narrowed. "I like to keep the conversation alive. Keeps the blood flowing. Or maybe I'm just trying to annoy you," Kai admitted, grinning. Celia's ears twitched again. "You're lucky I have a soft spot for idiots." Kai took that as a compliment. By the time the dome's lights flickered, signaling the end of the session, neither was quite sure who had won. Celia's chest rose and fell rapidly, and Kai was breathing hard but smiling. "You fight like a drunken space frog," she teased, wiping a stray lock of hair from her face. Kai laughed. "Better than sulking like a glitter lizard." She stared at him for a long moment, the queen of galactic warriors reduced to trading insults with a human who could barely stay on his feet. The tension that had filled the room melted away, replaced by something lighter. Something like respect. Or maybe the start of something neither of them quite understood yet. Kai grinned and said, "Same time tomorrow?" Celia nodded once, her eyes sparkling like stars in a nebula. "You're infuriating. And you're unexpectedly entertaining." The dome doors hissed closed behind them as they left the arena, their steps echoing in the silence. Somewhere, a hidden observer chuckled. The galaxy might just have a new kind of story brewing, one with punches, laughter, and a pair of unlikely combatants who refused to back down. And Kai was already thinking about his next witty comeback. Kai stretched his arms, the slight crackle of his augmented joints humming softly beneath his skin. "So, Celia," he said, flashing that grin that had gotten him in trouble more times than he cared to count. "You ever consider that maybe you're a little too serious for someone with long ears like that?" Celia paused mid-step, her dark eyes narrowing playfully as her ears twitched. "And you think I'm serious?" she asked, voice low but laced with mischief. "Absolutely. You wear that crown like it's glued on. I wear this grin like it's permanent." He pointed to his face, as if the grin was an accessory everyone admired. "Maybe we should swap for a day. I'll try ruling a galaxy. You try being me." Celia's laugh was unexpected, a sharp, clear sound that echoed down the narrow corridor of the starship. "You're insane. Or charmingly optimistic," Kai replied. "Same difference." The corridor lights flickered overhead as they made their way to the training lounge, where the buzz of energy fields and magnetic sparring dummies filled the air. It wasn't the most glamorous spot on the station, but it was where Celia came to sharpen her skills, and evidently where Kai had decided to insert himself into her rigorous routine. "You know," Kai said, twirling a small plasma shard between his fingers, "back on Earth, we'd call this a sparring session, but out here it feels more like a dance of destruction." Celia raised an eyebrow. "You're not half bad at this, for a human." Kai shrugged. "Survival skills mostly. Plus, I'm stubborn as a rock." Celia smirked. "That explains a lot." The sparring dummies ignited, emitting an eerie blue glow. Magnetic fields pulsed, making the training area feel weightless, a pocket of artificial gravity floating in zero-G. Kai bounced lightly on his feet, readying himself. "Ready to see if your spirit is as tough as your mouth?" Celia asked. "Bring it on, Queen of Pain," Kai said, adopting a mock bow that was more flop than flourish. Celia lunged, her movements a blur, but Kai dodged barely. The dummy's sensors flashed with each contact, recording hits and misses. Kai managed to land a glancing blow to Celia's shoulder. She grimaced, not from pain, but surprise. "That's the luck of humans," he said with a wink. "Messy, unpredictable, and usually unexpected." Celia's long ears twitched as she considered him. "You might be reckless, but you have fire. I can't say that about most who challenge me." Kai grinned. "Fire's good. Keeps things warm, especially when you're being thrown across rooms." Celia's eyes sparkled. "You're lucky my aim is off." "Is that a promise or a threat?" Celia's laugh echoed through the chamber. "A little of both." Suddenly, the ship's AI crackled over the comm. "Alert! Incoming simulation update. Prepare for phase 2. Kai groaned. "They never let us rest, do they?" "Rest is for the weak," Celia replied, flexing her fingers inside her gauntlets. The training floor shifted as holographic opponents materialized, shimmering figures wielding energy blades and graviton rifles. The room's gravity modulated, making every step feel like walking on the moon. Kai eyed the nearest hologram, a towering figure clad in armor that seemed to absorb light. "Well, at least these guys don't talk back." Celia rolled her eyes. "Wait till they start." The simulated foes advanced in sync, their movements fluid and relentless. Kai dodged an energy slash, narrowly avoiding a blast of graviton force. "You ever think about how weird it is," he shouted over the din, "that we're fighting ghosts? If I fall, I don't even get a cool death scene." "Maybe your death scene is just you tripping over your own feet," Celia teased. Kai stumbled but recovered, returning a quick jab to one hologram's chest. The dummy shimmered and flickered, disintegrating with a soft pop. Celia moved like a shadow, her strikes precise and deadly. "You're getting better," she acknowledged. "Or maybe I'm getting lazy." Kai smiled. "Never. You just enjoy the banter too much." Suddenly, one of the holograms split into smaller figures, fast, agile drones buzzing like angry hornets. Kai grinned. "Now we're talking." He darted and weaved, swinging a plasma baton with reckless energy. Celia joined the fray, her movements a graceful storm. Together, they dismantled the swarm with a combination of firepower and cunning. After the last drone dissipated, the room's gravity normalized. The holograms blinked out, leaving the training area quiet again except for their breathing. Kai wiped sweat from his forehead. "Not bad for a couple of galactic misfits." Celia lowered her arms. "You know, you're infuriating, but in a way I find it refreshing." "Don't let it go to your head," Kai warned, then grinned. "Or do. I kind of like that." Suddenly, a comm alert interrupted. "Queen Celia, your presence is requested in the council chambers." Celia's smile faded. "Duty calls." Kai nodded. "Looks like the fun ends here." "Not necessarily," Celia said, eyes glinting. "This galaxy's full of surprises. And maybe, just maybe, so are we." Kai chuckled. "I'll hold you to that." As they parted ways, the hum of the station seemed to pulse with possibility. Because sometimes, even in the vast silence of space, the spark between two unlikely souls could light up an entire star system. Kai glanced at the tray Celia had surprisingly carried all the way back from the human mess hall, holding two vividly colored smoothies that looked suspiciously like liquid rainbows. "You're really doing this," he said, eyebrows raised. "The queen of the galaxy drinking something that smells like a fruit salad exploded?" Celia's long ears flicked in amusement. "Even rulers need their nectar," she said with mock regal dignity. "Besides, it's an excellent way to confuse my guards. They didn't know whether to alert security or ask for a sip." Kai laughed, taking a cautious sip from the smoothie, which tasted like a sugary comet tail with a hint of alien mystery. "Not bad. Almost makes me forget I'm about to get thrashed again." "Confidence is key," Celia replied. "Or foolishness. The line blurs easily in your case." He smirked. "I prefer to think of it as strategic optimism." They found a quiet corner in the training lounge, the usual hum of magnetic dummies replaced by the gentle buzz of maintenance bots. "So," Kai began, balancing his smoothie, "what's next on the Queen's to-do list after humiliating me with your alien martial arts?" Celia shot him a look. "Humiliating you requires very little effort. Next up, a demonstration of tactical patience, or as I call it, waiting for you to stop talking." Kai grinned. Challenge accepted. Suddenly, the overhead lights dimmed, and holographic star maps flickered to life around them, displaying swirling nebulae and distant planets. Celia tapped a few controls, and the hologram zoomed in on a map of the star system. "Diplomatic matters," she said. "The High Assembly expects my presence soon. They're uneasy about recent skirmishes near the Trillion Sun sector." Kai squinted at the glowing dots representing fleets and outposts. "Looks like someone forgot to update the galaxy on peace talks." Celia nodded. "War is the galaxy's favorite hobby. It's hard to keep everyone on the same page when most prefer the drama." Kai shook his head. "Sounds exhausting." "It is," she admitted, "which is why I find it amusing that you volunteered to spar with me. You could have been anywhere else, maybe relaxing in some zero-G spa or—" "Fighting for my life?" Kai offered with a grin. "Precisely," Kai chuckled. "You know, for a galactic queen, you're surprisingly relatable." Celia's smile softened. "And you, for a human, are surprisingly persistent." Their banter was interrupted by a soft chime from the ship's AI. "Incoming communication from Admiral Creel." Celia's expression shifted. "Always something." She activated the comm channel. The holographic figure of Admiral Creel appeared, stern and impeccably uniformed, his cybernetic eye blinking as he spoke. "Queen Celia, we have reports of unauthorized incursions near the Trillion Suns. The rogue faction threatens the fragile peace." Celia nodded. "I am aware. We will address it. I intend to lead a delegation personally." Admiral Creel's eye glinted. "A bold move. I hope you understand the risks." "I do," Celia said calmly. But I also understand the value of direct action. The comm cut off. Kai leaned in. Sounds like you're going into the lion's den. Celia shrugged. I prefer to think of it as a crowded council room with more backstabbing. Kai laughed. Same difference. The next day, as the ship's artificial gravity stabilized at a pleasant 0.6 G, Celia and Kai found themselves in the gravity chamber, practicing hand-to-hand combat under shifting gravity fields. Kai attempted a playful jab, only to find himself floating unexpectedly as the gravity dropped to near zero. Okay, not what I expected, he admitted, flailing as he spun slowly. Celia caught him mid-tumble, her arms strong and steady. You're surprisingly light for someone with your attitude. Kai laughed, steadying himself. I try to keep it that way. They exchanged moves and counter-moves, laughter echoing in the chamber, as Kai accidentally flipped himself upside down more times than he cared to count. Not bad for a human, Celia admitted, panting lightly. You're learning. Kai smirked. Takes one to know one. Suddenly, the chamber's gravity stabilized, and Kai landed, albeit awkwardly, with a thud. Celia grinned. Ready for a smoothie break? Kai nodded enthusiastically. You read my mind. As they exited, Kai whispered, You think this is what the galaxy meant when it said unusual alliances? Celia smiled. Perhaps. Or maybe it's just the beginning of something none of us expected. Kai took a final sip of his smoothie. Then let's make sure it's a story worth telling. Celia folded her arms as the chamber's holographic walls shimmered, morphing into the darkened arena of the Trial of Blades. You sure about this, human? She asked, voice low but tinged with a rare softness. Kai scratched his head, trying not to look like a lost tourist in an alien festival. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds exactly like the kind of thing I should be running away from. Celia's long ears twitched with amusement. Running isn't an option. Besides, I brought you here because you're stubborn enough to survive the first round. Kai grinned. Stubborn and mildly insane. Great combo. The chamber shifted again, and suddenly they were surrounded by spectral illusions. Towering blade wielders shimmering with ethereal light, each one a reflection of fear itself. Kai narrowed his eyes. Okay, this is officially the weirdest sparring session ever. Celia's smile was tight. Focus, Kai. These illusions feed off your deepest doubts. They'll try to trap you in your own mind. He sighed dramatically. Fantastic. I've been trapped in my own mind since puberty. The first blade wielder lunged, swinging with impossible speed. Kai ducked, his movements fueled by adrenaline and a healthy dose of panic. You're slower than a nebula drift, Celia teased, blocking another strike with grace. I'm conserving energy, Kai shot back, attempting a clumsy counterattack that barely grazed the illusion. The figure flickered, responding with an eerie whisper. Fear. Weakness. Surrender. Kai frowned. You think you know me? Celia pressed forward, striking with deadly precision, dismantling an illusion that took the shape of her own self-doubt, a mirror of vulnerability beneath her regal exterior. Kai blinked. Wait, is that you in your bad mood? Celia smirked despite herself. Even queens have off days. Another illusion morphed into a battlefield from Kai's past, filled with echoes of old wars and lost friends. His breath caught as memories surged, threatening to drown him. Celia reached out, steadying his arm. You're not alone. Remember that. Kai nodded, feeling the weight of history and the lightness of companionship collide. Suddenly, the room shifted again. A cacophony of malfunctioning karaoke bots burst onto the scene, blaring off-key renditions of ancient human love songs. Kai groaned. Seriously? This is your idea of a test? Celia laughed, her guard lowering just enough for Kai to toss a mock bow. Consider it an unexpected challenge. The bots spun and whirred, their robotic voices chanting out-of-tune melodies. Kai ducked a flying microphone and quipped, If I survive this, I want a medal. Or at least some earplugs. Celia grinned. Or you could just sing along. Yeah, because nothing says hero like a tone-deaf human belting intergalactic ballads. Together, they fought through the absurd chorus, laughter breaking the tension that had built within the chamber. As the last bot fizzled out, Celia's eyes locked with Kai's. You didn't have to come. Kai shrugged, wiping sweat from his brow. Someone had to keep you grounded. Plus, I like snacks, and this place has surprisingly good catering. Celia's smile softened. Thank you. The illusions dissolved, and the chamber returned to its neutral state. Kai cracked his knuckles. So, what now? Celebrate surviving the galaxy's weirdest trial? Celia considered. We fight on, but with new understanding. Kai nodded. Sounds like a plan. Next time, maybe fewer singing robots? She laughed. No promises. The observation deck hummed softly as Kai leaned against the transparent wall, eyes tracing constellations he'd only read about in ancient star charts. Celia joined him quietly, her long ears silhouetted against the swirling galaxies outside. You know, Kai began, when I first volunteered to spar with you, I thought I'd be a footnote in some alien history book. Maybe that human who got tossed around a bit. Celia smirked. And yet here you are, more legend than footnote. Kai chuckled. Guess stubbornness and bad jokes pay off. Celia looked at him, her gaze steady. You've changed, not just in the ring or on the training floor. You see beyond the chaos, beyond the politics. Same goes for you, Kai said. You're more than just a queen with a reputation for breaking bones. You've got a fire and a heart. She raised an eyebrow. Careful, human. Flattery might get you thrown across the room again. Not if I keep smiling, Kai replied, stepping closer. The galaxy outside stretched endlessly, a tapestry of stars and stories. Between them, a new story had been written, one of defiance, laughter, and unexpected connection. The assembly still expects me to choose, Celia said, between power and everything else. Kai took her hand, his grip firm. You don't have to choose alone anymore. She nodded, eyes shining with unspoken promise. Together then, whatever comes next. The ship's AI chimed softly, announcing the council's readiness to receive their decision. But in that moment, neither Kai nor Celia rushed. They stood, two souls from different worlds, united not by obligation, but by choice. Kai grinned. So, ready to show them what real rebellion looks like? Celia's eyes lit up. With you, always. And as the stars bore witness, they stepped forward. Not as queen and subject, but as equals. Two sparks destined to ignite change across the galaxy. Because sometimes the greatest revolution begins with a smile and a question. Is that all you've got? The first thing I noticed was that she didn't blink. I was halfway through slurping a bowl of synth noodle soup, pretty sure it was at least 40% kelp paste and 60% regret, when my eyes locked with hers across the trade plaza. And she just stared. Not in the, hey, I think you dropped your credit shit way. This was a look like I had personally kicked her star cat and dated her sister. She was tall, elegant, wrapped in some sort of metallic gray cloak that shimmered like it had a low-level deflection field woven into it. Definitely not the usual street rag fashion on Erna Station. Her hair was tied back, yellow gold and way too clean for a place that smelled like fried battery acid. But the thing that really got me? The ears, long, tapered, delicately curved upward, like they were listening to something the rest of us didn't have clearance for. I glanced behind me. Maybe she was glaring at someone else. Nope. Just a broken vending unit blinking, error, melon flavor out of stock in 5 languages. I looked back. She was crying. My spoon froze halfway to my mouth. Not a sob, just a single tear sliding down her cheek like even gravity was being gentle with it. For a moment, I wondered if this was one of those immersive marketing stunts. Like, try Gleep Corp's new emotional soda. Our actors will weep in your presence until you buy one. Then she said my name. Cal. Just like that. Software, almost reverent. But the real punch was that she didn't just say Cal. She said Callius Rennick, my full name. No one called me that except the tax bots and my mother. And she was 10 light years away with a broken holocom and a fondness for sending guilt transmissions twice a month. I stood up so fast I nearly knocked over my soup, which would have been tragic considering it cost me half a credit and a chunk of my dignity. Do we know each other? I asked, trying to sound casual while my brain was spiraling into full panic. She didn't answer. Just stepped toward me with the slow grace of someone who wasn't entirely convinced the ground was real. And then she hugged me. Look, I'm not opposed to hugs. Big fan in the right context. But when a tall alien woman with haunted eyes and a deflector cloak buries her face into your chest and sobs like the universe just played her a breakup ballad, that's new. Okay, I muttered, awkwardly patting her back. You've clearly mistaken me for someone else. Maybe a cousin, a charming space pirate version of me. Definitely not a guy who sells used hydro pumps on the lower decks. You're alive, she whispered. You're really alive. A few onlookers had started glancing our way. One vendor snorted. She finally found the guy who borrowed her plasma cutter and never brought it back. I gave him a weak smile. Working theory. She pulled away, just enough to look at me. Her eyes were glassy, but her expression had shifted, like she was trying to memorize every line of my face. It's you, she said again. Me who? The question seemed to hurt her, not in the "you're a jerk" way, more like I had just told her her homeworld had been erased from the star charts, which, okay, maybe not the best analogy given the current politics in the Centauri fracture zone, but you get the idea. I need to explain, she said, voice shaking. But not here. Right, I said, glancing around. Public place, witnesses, the smell of space-fried tofu. Not ideal. She took my hand. Her fingers were warm. That struck me for some reason. Warm, steady, and wrapped around mine like she was afraid I'd vanish if she let go. And I would have pulled away. I should have pulled away. But something, don't ask me what, kept my hand in hers. We walked in silence, not toward the shuttle lifts or the docks. She led me instead to a small, forgotten corner of the station, past flickering signs and closed shop shutters. Eventually, we stopped before a sealed maintenance hatch with faded paint and the words "No entry, life support systems" stenciled on it. You have a thing for romantic settings, I muttered. She pressed her palm to the panel. It hissed and slid open. Inside, the room was old. Not just worn, but ancient in a way stations shouldn't be. Pipes hummed quietly. The air smelled of ozone and rust. She sat on a metal crate and motioned for me to do the same. Then she looked at me like a war was happening behind her eyes. I'm going to say something you won't believe. I sell used parts to people who build jet bikes out of junk and dreams. Try me. She took a breath. My name is Yareva. I've lived for over 13,000 years, and I've been looking for you. For most of them. I stared at her. She waited. I opened my mouth, closed it, then opened it again, because sarcasm was my panic language. Okay. Well, 13,000 years is a long time to stalk someone. Did you at least follow me on the holonet first? I'm not joking. I noticed. That's my job. Her face twisted in pain. You don't remember. Remember what? I asked, my voice quieter now. You, she whispered, were someone I loved. A long, long time ago. And when you died, part of me broke. But you came back. You always come back. I just didn't expect it would be now. I blinked. So I'm what? Your ancient alien ex-boyfriend in a new skin? Something like that. Look, I believe in weird stuff. I once saw a snail beat a telepath at chess. But this is... Then something hit me. Not literally, emotionally. Like a memory that wasn't mine. A flash of white fire. A kiss on a glass balcony under twin moons. A voice, hers, laughing, crying, whispering my name. But the name wasn't Cal. It was Kale. I staggered back, heart thudding. What did you do to me? I croaked. Nothing, she said softly. It's just starting. The memories. They always come back. I grabbed my head, which felt like it was trying to download a terabyte of heartbreak through a dial-up brain. I think I need to lie down, preferably somewhere that isn't leaking metaphysical trauma. She nodded. It will pass. A little. For now. So, what now? I asked, trying to sound brave and mostly failing. Yareva looked at me with a mix of joy and grief. Now we remember who you were, who we were, and why the universe won't let you stay dead. Fantastic, I muttered. Also, you're buying dinner next time. I think I earned it. I had questions. A galaxy of them. The kind of questions you don't exactly Google unless you want the algorithm to start sending you ads for crystal healing and time loop insurance. Yareva, bless her millennia-old heart, wasn't in a hurry to answer any of them. Not clearly, anyway. She preferred cryptic metaphors and long silences, like a space oracle on a dramatic break. We sat there in the dusty maintenance room, listening to the hum of forgotten machinery and the occasional clank of a drunk technician stumbling past. I was still trying to process the whole, "You're the reincarnation of my long-dead soulmate" revelation without hyperventilating. Spoiler, I failed. "So let me get this straight," I said, running a hand through my hair, which didn't help. "You're immortal." "Yes. And I'm not." "You haven't been, until now." Comforting. She tilted her head slightly, those long ears twitching as if tuning into some far-off signal. "Your soul has always returned, but your mind never remembers. Each life, you begin again. Human biology can't hold ancient memory. Not easily." "Well, that explains my GPA," I muttered. Her lips curved. Barely. A ghost of a smile. It was probably the first time in centuries she'd smiled at anyone who wasn't a hallucination. I took that as a win. "So you've been just wandering space, waiting for me to be born again?" I asked. "No," she said, "not wandering, searching." "For 13,000 years?" "Yes." "You ever heard of hobbies, knitting, zero-grav yoga, dating apps?" That actually got a laugh. A small one, but real. Her laugh was quiet, like wind through old trees. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear it until I did. "You always had jokes," she said softly, "even when things were burning." "Yeah, well, humor's a survival instinct, that and sarcasm. I come from a long line of emotional deflectors." She didn't reply. Just looked at me again. That looked like I was a miracle and a tragedy at the same time. I had to get out of that room. It was too full of ghosts. We ended up walking the lower deck of Erna Station, past neon-lit stalls, rusting vendor bots, and two very intense-looking street dancers trying to outspin each other on magnetic boots. I needed air, or whatever passed for it in the recycled guts of a third-tier orbital port. "I work in salvage," I said suddenly, filling the silence. "Ship parts, water pumps. Occasionally I fix vending machines. I'm really not this epic soul-returning chosen one you're hoping for." "You weren't always a scientist," she replied, brushing her hand against a railing as we walked. "In your first life, yes. But you've returned as warriors, smugglers, diplomats, even a poet once." "A poet?" I raised a brow. "What was I writing? Ode to an alien crush?" "You rhymed supernova with sofa. It wasn't good." "Wow, so reincarnation doesn't come with dignity." We turned down a darker alley lit only by a flickering hollow sign reading, "Squig's Emporium." Legal, mostly. I hesitated. "We're not actually going into Squig's, right?" "Of course not," she said. "We're going under it." Terrific. She knelt by a panel, waved a small crystal over it. Definitely not a common key card, and the hatch slid open with a tired sigh. Inside was a lift shaft that looked like it hadn't been maintained since the station's birthday party. I peered in. No safety rail. Perfect. Totally not a death chute. "I'll go first," she said. "By all means. I'll just write my will up here." We descended on a creaky platform lit by pale blue strips. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. At one point I heard something skitter. Might have been a vent crab. Might have been a ghost. When we reached the bottom, the platform slid into an old transit tunnel. Walls were lined with moss, actual moss, somehow thriving on condensation and tech radiation. We stepped through a rusted archway, and there it was. A room, or more like a chamber, circular, ancient, stone fused with metal in ways I didn't understand. At the center, a device hovered silently, a sphere split into 5 spinning layers, each orbiting a core that shimmered like liquid starlight. "What is that?" I whispered. Yareva approached it with reverence. "A remnant. From before the collapse. Before your kind and mine even had words for each other." I walked around it slowly, careful not to touch. Okay, science fiction artifact. Glowy bits. Does it shoot lasers or unlock secret destinies? It records soul patterns, fragments, imprints. You're saying this thing knows me? Knows who you were, she said. But only if you're ready. I eyed the sphere. Define ready. She said nothing, just motioned for me to step closer. I did, slowly. And as I did, something in the air changed. The lights dimmed. The hum grew deeper. I swear I could feel time stretch, like I'd stepped into a memory that wasn't mine, and yet was. A woman's voice echoed in my head. Heron Younger laughing. I saw flashes of something, of him, the man I once was. He looked like me, but sharper, stronger, sadder. I stumbled back, heart racing. Okay, yeah, that's enough weird for today, I said, breath ragged. Ureva stepped forward and steadied me. Each time you return, the fragments surface faster. This is earlier than before. Earlier than before. How many times have I done this? Her silence was answer enough. We left the chamber in a strange kind of quiet, heavy but not oppressive, like we just reopened a door that had stayed shut for too long. Back in the alley, I asked, so what's the plan now? You tell me more bedtime stories from my ancient soul resume? She glanced up at the stars through a grimy viewport. We find the others. There are others? Her eyes darkened. Not all of them want you to return. Right, of course, because reincarnated souls always attract assassins in the third act. She smiled faintly again. You're taking this better than most. Oh, I scream internally, I said. I just do it with flair. She turned, cloak fluttering behind her. Tomorrow I show you what you did, what you broke, and why the stars are watching. I sighed. Can we maybe do it after breakfast? I function better with coffee and existential dread. That time her laugh was real. The morning began with an explosion. Not metaphorical, an actual, bone-rattling, station-rattling explosion that triggered every alarm Erna Station hadn't used since the last time someone tried deep-frying antimatter. I woke up upside down, not because of the blast, but because the guest bunk in Ureva's hideout apparently believed in non-Euclidean ergonomics. I fell out of bed, landed on my face, and groaned. Is this a dream? I muttered. Because if it is, my subconscious has terrible interior design taste. The room was dim, lit only by a wall console blinking angry orange. A voice came through, filtered, robotic, panicked. Emergency protocol, external hull breach detected on Deck 6C. Non-essential life forms, please remain calm. Essential personnel, please begin your ritual panicking. I scrambled to the door and yanked it open just as Ureva emerged from the shadows like some kind of mythological emergency response team. She was already geared up in her armor, sleek, ancient, and humming faintly with power. Her long ears twitched once, catching the frequency of the alert like a bat made of secrets. Good news, I said. I'm still not essential personnel. Bad news, she replied, handing me a pulse pistol. Someone just tried to kill you. I stared at the pistol like it might bite. Again, not essential. She was already moving, fluid and focused. I ran after her like a slightly confused Labrador. The corridor was chaos. Red lights, steam hissing from ruptured vents, and one unlucky janitor clinging to a floating bucket like it was a life raft. As we passed, he raised a wrench. They said it was just a maintenance drill. They lied, I called back, following Ureva through the access tunnel. We reached the lift, which of course had gone offline, so we took the emergency ladder shaft. I was halfway up when I realized climbing with a pistol and no cardio training was, frankly, a terrible life choice. Can't we use your fancy alien tech to teleport? I panted. That's not how it works. Then it should work that way. Someone invent that. When we emerged on Deck 6C, the smoke was thick and the walls were blackened. A small survey shuttle had embedded itself halfway through the corridor bulkhead. Emergency crews were trying to stabilize the seal, but that wasn't the part that got my attention. What got my attention was the woman in a silver exosuit walking calmly through the flames like she was headed to a picnic. Her helmet retracted with a hiss, revealing a smooth, angular face, cybernetic eyes, and a smile that screamed, I definitely know your browser history. Found him, she said. Friend of yours? I asked. Yareva stepped in front of me. She's a chrono intercessor. Sounds friendly. They aren't. The woman in silver took another step. You're early, Yareva. He wasn't supposed to awaken yet. Your faction tried to kill him. That accelerated things. The chrono intercessor shrugged. Minor error in scheduling. Then she pointed at me. We'll take him now. Gently, if possible. I raised a hand. Quick poll. Who is we, and why am I in danger of being taken? The woman ignored me. The recurrence destabilizes time. This version is flawed. Delete it now, before it roots. Wow, I said. This is the worst breakup line I've ever heard. Yareva's gauntlet lit up. You'll have to go through me. Silver Lady sighed. I hoped it wouldn't be this dramatic. 3 drones uncloaked around her, sleek, black, humming with ominous blue energy. Yareva didn't wait. She moved like time slowed for her. A flick of her hand and a pulse shattered the nearest drone. I ducked behind a console before I could become human Swiss cheese. Laser fire lit the hall like a rave no one wanted to attend. Yareva was poetry, violent, ancient poetry. Her blades sang, and her armor absorbed hits like it had a personal vendetta against physics. I managed to fire a few shots. I hit a wall. Twice. Silver Lady snarled and charged. Yareva met her head-on. They clashed in a blur of tech and rage. I watched, completely outclassed, and deeply aware that my survival odds had plummeted to background character. Then, just as Yareva managed to slam Silver Lady against a wall, the intercessor smiled. You're not ready for what comes next, she hissed, and vanished, literally. Poof, gone. I stood up slowly, coughing. Okay, was that a hologram, a teleport, or just really good acting? She was real, Yareva said, brushing dust from her shoulder, and she'll be back. Super, can't wait. Emergency klaxons faded into background hum. The station systems had started stabilizing, or at least pretending to. I sat on the edge of a maintenance cart and tried to slow my breathing. So, I said, just to recap, someone called a chrono intercessor tried to delete me, and now I need new pants. She's one of many, Yareva said. They're part of a temporal faction that believes your return threatens the fabric of causal flow. Do I? Sometimes. Great. So I'm either a cosmic gift or a black hole in pants. She looked at me, face unreadable. You're more than that. But if we don't find the others soon, they'll find us first. Who are these others you keep mentioning? Former soulmates? Past life poker buddies? People who remember. People who were connected to you. To him. The man you were. Kyle. She nodded. Each life, parts of him scatter. Not just memories. Not just dreams. People, artifacts. Codes buried in ancient tech. It's all returning now. And someone's trying to stop it. I stood up, brushing soot from my jacket. And here I was, worried about paying my water bill this week. Her hand touched my shoulder. Warm again. Steady. You've stepped into a larger path. You always do. Do I at least get a cool spaceship this time? She smiled. You already have one. Really? It's stolen. Even better. We left the ruined corridor just as station repair bots began patching things up like they hadn't almost witnessed a timeline skirmish. Somewhere a janitor muttered, "Not again," and went back to scrubbing. We reached the hangar a few minutes later. There it was, small, sleek, unmistakably alien in design, and sitting innocently like it hadn't punched through 3 security layers last month. Yareva gestured. Meet the Ravelin. Fast, invisible, possibly sentient. Try not to offend it. Can it cook? No. Disappointing. As we boarded, I turned back toward the station one last time. You think they'll follow us? They already are, she said. I nodded. Right. Well, if we're gonna die, I vote we do it with style. I'll try. And with that, the Ravelin lifted off, slipping through the station's perimeter like a shadow through a dream. The Ravelin didn't fly. It flowed, like a dream that refused to obey gravity, slipping through slipstreams with the ease of a dancer in zero-G. Which would have been poetic if I wasn't in the co-pilot seat trying to figure out which button didn't flush the toilet mid-burn. So this thing is alive? I asked, eyeing a glowing panel that had just hissed at me for the 3rd time. Partially sentient, Ureva replied, not looking up from her controls. It bonded to me during the Solarian Exodus. That sounds ominous. Did it want to bond, or did you just kidnap it and call it destiny? It volunteered. How noble of it. The cockpit adjusted its lighting, dimming gently as we crossed into null space. Null space was a special kind of terrible. It wasn't quite hyperspace, not quite subspace, but a sideways sliver of folded reality that gave most people migraines and hallucinations involving talking jellyfish. I once saw a guy marry a projection of his ex during a long haul through null. The ceremony was beautiful, the annulment less so. I braced myself as the stars stretched into violet ribbons. So where exactly are we going? Ureva adjusted the coordinates. The malfolds. There's someone there who remembers you, not the you are now, the you were then. Fantastic, I muttered. Another person to disappoint. He built something. A map to my soul? To the fractures. I blinked. Sorry, was I supposed to come pre-installed with fractures? She tapped the console. Every time your soul returns, it leaves imprints, threads. Some connect to people, others to places. The map shows where they gather. I feel like a very complicated jigsaw puzzle. You were always complex. See, that sounds like a nice way of saying I was difficult. She didn't argue. The Ravelin dropped out of null space just outside the mail folds. The folds weren't so much a location as a scar across space-time. A torn net of distorted gravity fields, ghost echoes, and ruined ships stuck in perpetual loops. Fun vacation spot if you like being existentially disoriented. I looked out the viewport and saw a cruiser from the pre-unification era flicker in and out of visibility. Is that thing even real? It is and it isn't. Time here is tangled. Great. So my soul's been leaving breadcrumbs in a place where physics comes to cry. She guided the ship through carefully, brushing between time vortices and energy fractures like she was threading a needle made of chaos. I just tried not to puke. Eventually we reached a structure nestled in the folds, a giant, jagged mass of alloy and obsidian that looked like it had been built by a sleep-deprived AI. Dozens of antennae spiraled from its hull, blinking in rhythms that made my teeth itch. That's a station? I asked. It's called the Archive. Of course it is. Nothing terrifying ever happens in a place called the Archive. We docked. The airlock hissed open with the distinct sound of ancient resentment. Inside, the halls were dim and lined with cables that pulsed faintly, like veins. It smelled like old books and ozone. I followed Ureva through twisting corridors, past broken displays and humming walls. Occasionally, ghostly images flickered in the air. Faces, voices, scenes from lives not mine, but somehow familiar. A child laughing on a red sand world. A soldier standing in fire. A scientist reaching for a star he couldn't name. Do not interact with the echoes, Ureva warned. Why? Will I explode? Only emotionally. We reached a chamber shaped like an hourglass. In the center stood a man, or a machine. Honestly, I couldn't tell. He shimmered at the edges. More data than flesh. More presence than person. His eyes were hollow, but they watched me with intensity. Kyle, he said. Not Kyle, I corrected. Just Cal. Kyle Light. 0-calorie reincarnation. He tilted his head. You smell of paradox. Yeah, I stopped showering after the third assassination attempt. Ureva stepped forward. We came for the map. The figure turned, lifting one hand. Holographic lines burst from the floor, twisting into a web of stars and nodes. The map was unlike anything I'd seen. Not coordinates, not star charts. More like emotional gravity. The weight of moments, the magnetism of memory. These are the fractures, he said. Points where your soul burned brightest. They draw attention. From others, like you. From those who hunt you. Can we use this to find the next piece? I asked. Perhaps, but beware. One of the fractures is waking. Waking? Another version of you. Or a version that thinks it's you. I'm sorry, there are fake me's now? He nodded. Echoes gone rogue. Reflections trying to become real. Not all fragments wish to return to you. Ureva's expression darkened. We've seen them before. One almost killed him during the Arkenfall. Sounds like a party I don't remember and wouldn't want to attend. The map shifted again, zooming in on a system that flickered in and out of stability. "Go here," the archivist said, "before the fracture becomes a tear." "Thanks, spooky data guy." As we turned to leave, he spoke again. "Kyle, do you ever dream of fire?" I paused. "Lately, I've been dreaming of a woman standing in the ruins of a world. She always cries. She always does." Back aboard the Ravelin, I sat in the co-pilot seat again, staring at the stars. The map hovered between us, now stored in the ship's memory. Each fracture shimmered like a beacon. I had no idea what I was supposed to do with them. Fix them? Merge with them? Throw them into a space bonfire and hope the universe took a hint? "Are you okay?" Yureva asked quietly. "Number. But I've accepted that as my new default." She smiled just a little. "You're stronger this time." "I think I'm just more tired. We'll rest after this." "I'll believe that when I see it." The Ravelin pulled away from the archive and vanished into null space once more, chasing after memories older than light. The fractured system was beautiful in the most unnerving way possible. An unstable star flickering like it had stage fright, orbiting moons that shifted their trajectories when you weren't looking, and a space station hovering right in the middle of it all, like someone had dared the laws of physics and won out of sheer spite. The map had pointed us here, and the pulsing beacon from one of the soul fractures had gone from a whisper to a drumbeat in my chest. Yureva piloted the Ravelin with her usual calm intensity, eyes flicking between shifting starfield projections and ancient code running through the nav screen like a language only she could read. I was pretending to monitor systems, mostly to feel useful and partly to stop myself from chewing through my own nerves. "You sure this is the one?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "This is where the fragment awakened." "And when you say awakened, you mean it's, what, alive? Sentient? Opening a fusion restaurant?" "Possibly all three, but mostly the dangerous part." The station ahead had no visible insignia, no broadcast signal, nothing to indicate who built it. It just waited. That's the thing about the past. When it stirs, it doesn't do it gently. Yureva touched my arm before we docked. Her fingers lingered longer than usual. "This will be different," she said. "Different how?" "This time, it may not want to return." The docking was silent, no resistance. That should have been comforting. It wasn't. Inside, the corridors were pristine, unnaturally clean. I didn't even see dust, which is disturbing because dust always finds a way. The lights flickered occasionally, as if the station was confused about what time it was. In the heart of it all, we found the fracture. Not a machine, not a memory. A person. He looked like me. Exactly like me. He sat cross-legged in the center of a circular chamber, surrounded by glowing glyphs that pulsed with deep crimson light. His head rose as we entered, and he smiled. It was my smile, except it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hello, Cal," he said, or Kyle, or whichever version we're pretending to be today. I took a cautious step forward. "So, you're me?" "I was. Then I got tired of being forgotten. Tired of dying. So I stayed." "Stayed where? In this station?" "In me. I didn't reincarnate. I anchored myself to this point in time. Watched all the others live and die while I held on to the core of us." Yureva stood beside me, silent, tense. The other me, let's call him Kale Prime, tilted his head toward her. "She's beautiful, isn't she? We said we'd love her through every life, but we also said we'd stop sacrificing every time. You remember how it ended last time? Fire, blood, screaming, all for her." "Hey," I snapped, "she's been saving me from explosions, assassins, and identity crises while you've been, what, hiding in your own ego?" Cal Prime chuckled. "I'm the part of you that refused to forget. I kept the memories, the pain, the promises. You? You get reborn and play salvage guy until something jogs your ancient guilt." "Nice to meet me," I said. "You're a jerk." "I'm you without the filter," he said. "And I'm not going back. You can't absorb me like the others. I won't be forgotten again." Yureva stepped forward. "This isn't about forgetting. It's about healing." Cal Prime stood. "I am the wound. Well, I said, drawing in a breath, maybe it's time we stop picking at it. The room darkened. Glyphs pulsed faster. Prime raised a hand and reality shuddered. A blast of memory hit me. Memories that weren't flashes, but entire lifetimes. Wars, laughter, stars being born. Her eyes in 1,000 variations of sorrow. I dropped to one knee. Yureva rushed forward, her armor flaring with golden light. She wrapped herself around me, shielding my mind from the flood. Fight him, she whispered. You're not him anymore. I looked up at Kale Prime. You're not all of me, I said. You're pain, regret, a fossil of someone who couldn't move on. But I can. I have to, he sneered. Then take me. I reached out, and for a second, I wasn't sure it would work. But then I stopped resisting. I let the memories in, but not to dominate, just to be part of me. I remembered the pain, the love, the fear, but also the choice. The man who had died to save a world. The man who had cried in Yureva's arms on a battlefield. And the man who'd once built a machine that could find a soul across time. Kyle Prime staggered. His shape flickered. His arrogance gave way to something older, sadder. Will I still exist? He asked. Yes, I said, but not alone. He closed his eyes and faded. The room went still. Yureva helped me stand. I was shaking, not from fear, but from weight, from holding all those lives at once. You did it, she said. We did. We returned to the Ravelin, and for the first time, I felt whole. I wasn't Cal pretending to be someone greater. I wasn't Kale lost in ancient grief. I was both, and something new. The map vanished the moment we left the system. The fragments had returned. The pulse was gone. Now what? I asked, buckling into the seat. She looked at me with the gentlest eyes I'd ever seen. Now you live. No timelines. No missions. Just you. I leaned back. Any chance that involves a beach planet and drinks with fruit in them? She smiled. Maybe even 2 umbrellas. The Ravelin powered up and slipped back into the stars. Behind us, the station began to dissolve. Its purpose fulfilled, its echo fading. Ahead, the galaxy waited, not with doom or prophecy, just with possibility. I turned to Yureva. So, do I snore in this lifetime? Terribly, she said. Well, I guess some things never change.